Imagine you wake up one day realizing there's nothing much to live for. Your life is bleak and you go about your day faking smiles and getting your affairs in order before the inevitable. Nothing much needs to be sorted when you're unemployed. You say your subtle last goodbyes to your loved ones. Maybe even say the things that you held your tongue on. Before it gets dark, find a nice quiet spot, taking a knife and dragging it across your hand and wrist a few times. Soon your vision fades and turns black. Later you feel your consciousness returning, seeing nothing but darkness. Maybe this is the afterlife. Your body feels weak and heavy, barely able to move. Feels like something cold is holding you by the wrist. As you open your eyes, a male officer is seen watching you intently. Your hands and wrists are stitched, and you're handcuffed to the bed. The officer says you're going to court soon and going to be charged with attempted suicide, facing imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year, or with a fine, or both. This is what Yuka Sin experienced in 2017. She faced a 2008 fine after pleading guilty to attempted suicide by slashing her left wrist and right hand with a knife. Unfortunately, many others relate to her story. For every death by suicide, there are 10 to 20 more suicide attempts. But does criminalizing attempted suicide really help? The criminalization of suicide attempts does not help to decrease suicide rates, furthering the stigmatization of suicide attempts, and does not give people the help they need. After extensive research on this topic, suicide attempts should be decriminalized. Today, I hope to persuade my audience to advocate the repeal of Section 309 of the Penal Code, which is to decriminalize attempted suicide, as the criminalization of suicide attempts does not help those who are suicidal. Let's look closely at the effects of this law. Day by day, rates of suicide attempts continue to increase. The criminalization of suicide attempts does not help to decrease the suicide rates. The World Health Organization has stated in the World Suicide Report that no data or case reports indicate that the decriminalization increases suicides. It is noted in the report that suicide rates tend to decline in countries after decriminalization. When suicides are criminalized, it is often hidden and deaths go unreported, thus giving the false impression that suicidal behaviors are less prevalent. Various mental health professionals and NGOs have warned against this law. The criminalization causes further stigmatization of suicide attempts. This stigma puts pressure on the attempter's personal independence, social relationships, and employability. Based on the journal Frontiers in Psychiatry, the attempters are perceived to be attention-seeking, selfish, incompetent, emotionally weak, and immoral, facing many types of stereotypes, prejudices, and discrimination. The International Journal of Mental Health conducted a semi-structured interview with 15 health professionals from both government and private sectors in Malaysia to pinpoint where this stigma manifests. This stigma comes off as labeling, rejection in all areas of life, and active employment discrimination. The first is labeling, where it is considered the worst form of stigma. People tend to characterize them based on their mental diagnosis, with frequent name calling. Next is rejection, where most of the mental health professionals agree that family and friends appear to be the main perpetrators. The rejection subsequently leads to social exclusion. Lastly is employment-related discrimination, where half of the participants stressed the lack of employment prospects due to active employment discrimination. The criminalization of attempted suicide does not give people the help that they need. From the International Journal of Business, Economics, and Law, not all attempted suicide cases are referred to a psychiatrist. About 15 to 25% of people who have attempted suicide will make another suicide attempt within 3 months, and that 1% will kill themselves in the following year. For example, in 2012, a 39-year-old foreigner took his children to the top floor of a condominium and pushed them off the building. Then he himself jumped off the condominium. This was his second attempt after being saved. It is also noted in the National Suicide Registry Malaysia, a person in custody also has a high risk of committing suicide, in which a majority takes place in their own prison cell. This clearly shows the system has failed at helping them. So what's the solution? The effects of Section 309 of the Penal Code can be reverted and undone. The best way of doing so is to decriminalize the act. More programs and funding should be allocated towards tackling mental health issues. For example, by providing more funding to mental health care, hiring more clinical psychologists and psychiatrists in hospitals, and adding aspects of mental health to the education syllabus. These steps help to ensure better mental health management to all Malaysians. Attempters will more so be viewed as victims needing help rather than criminals. The number of attempts will also be reduced as people have better access to receive help and are better equipped to handle stress. If you Sin had access to mental health services, things would have ended differently. In conclusion, the prosecution of attempted suicide does more harm than good to those who are suicidal. Let us take on the call of action and fight the repeal of the law, and pour more funding and add more programs to tackle mental health issues. Let's start saving lives and put a stop to this archaic law. And with that, thank you.